Bible and understanding, theology and prophecy and so on. And I look at the prophecy, and I don't know if some of that stuff is there to help us manifest their plans, or did the prophets and the seers give us genuine warnings as to what is to come? And if you do believe that, and part of me does think that, you know what, we are in the end days, and they ain't going to be pretty. It's going to be some very, very tumultuous times ahead. And I think, people like, ourselves, we're kind of psychologically and I guess spiritually prepared for that.
Yeah.
Maybe not the masses.
No, and I've been having conversations with people and that sort of thing as well. And I think that's the reason and the intention why we created Messages from the Underground initially, was because to give that information and try and filter through some of the information, but really to be able to reach people and with what they're dealing with, perhaps mentally, and their circumstances and that sort of thing, and be able to transition that and be able to speak into creating hope for people. And the old saying and the adage and the cliches is, or are, that it's the darkest hour is before the dawn, and it's going to get funky. Like it's got to get funky. Like with what's happening in Australia, job seeker, job keeper gets rolled back the end of March. That people have sort of been pacified into a false sense of security. The economic impacts are going to be massive. But the thing is, it's having people be prepared and sort of get really, like you said, you were saying earlier in the first part of the conversation about getting community, talking to people, getting things off your chest, getting clear about what you want. Like ultimately, the material things and that sort of thing, even though they're nice to have, Dave, and even in my career, in my life, they've sort of come and gone. It really gets you clear on what's important.
Yeah, it really does, mate. And like right now, even above and beyond your financial health, your mental health's got to come first, and your physical health. You know what I mean? If you're not physically working on yourself, like eating really well, minimizing your alcohol intake, minimizing the foods that kind of lower your level of health or lower your vibration, if you like. Your physical health is critical. It's absolutely critical to be taking really, really good care of yourself, because I don't care what anyone says. It's very, very hard to be mentally well if you're not physically well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't see a lot of, genuinely happy people who are in very poor physical shape. They go hand in hand, and this is where you've got to have a good diet. And I don't promote veganism or whatever diet works for you. If you know how to listen to your body, but you've got to be taking incredibly good care of your health. Because let's face it, right? You could have all the Bitcoin in the world, you could have a whole bunch of money stashed in the bank, you could have all gold and silver, whatever. But if all hell breaks loose, which is highly fucking possible and probable, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to potentially defend yourself. You want to be. You might have to carry heavy things. You might have to do a lot of running. You might have to do a lot of walking. God knows what can happen, but you don't want to be 40 kilos overweight and crack a sweat when you tie your shoelaces.
Yeah.
You want to be physically ready. I came off my skateboard yesterday. My leg's infected and whatever. You know what, Paul? It was actually great. It reminded me that pain is part of life.
Yeah.
And there might be a lot of pain coming, and how you deal with that is going to be really, really important. How you deal with uncertainty, potential financial pain, physical pain, even food shortages, this sort of stuff. How are you going to prepare yourself mentally to deal with anything that may come without melting down? And this is where us tinfoil hat wearers who have been mocked and ridiculed and slandered and character assassinated and whatever, we're going to be the ones that hold our shit together when the bog roll zombies, that's what I call them, the bog roll zombies lose their shit. Because we've seen how they panic buy just to wipe their ass when they see something on the television.
Yeah.
Food shortages or the grid goes down, they're going to melt down, and they'll be turning to us with sort of some sense of, stability.
Yeah.
we've seen the writing on the wall for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So in other words, in other news, also in the last week, the Telegram channel added something like 25 million users in something like a couple of days.
Wow.
Yeah,
Incredible.
and also for the first time, Signal went down.
Did it really?
Yeah, just so many people onboarding so quickly. So they've obviously realized, if they've watched, and I've spoken about it, there's a new word, I've spoken about it previously, about people getting and watching documentaries about Edward Snowden, about Citizen4 and the NSA surveillance and that sort of thing, been talking about privacy and encryption. One of my first speeches that I gave in Brisbane about using encryption now was about using Signal. That was way back in April of last year.
Right.
But they onboarded. So pretty much everyone can assume at this point in time. Again, none of this is conspiracies either, Dave. It's known fact now that pretty much all communications are monitored unless people are using encryption like Signal. But yeah, Signal had so many users on board so fast that they couldn't stand the capacity. So it's
Wow.
functioning now, but it went down for a couple of days.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, look,
Yeah.
It's incredible. And, we're finding out more and more that the war against us is a big part of their key weapon is the artificial intelligence.
Yes.
And, using the platforms like, Facebook and Instagram and so on, particularly the Facebook ones, how you register your likes or your emotions, right?
The emoticons.
Right, yeah, the emoticons. Yeah. They're building an emotional profile of you, and our EQ is more important than our IQ, our emotional intelligence, right?
Yeah.
So they're mapping your emotions with content and personality profiling you. Couple that with your viewing habits, your shopping habits, your known associates, and so on, and they know you inside and out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
what time you get on the phone, what time you finish getting off your phone, what you like, what you don't like. And for anyone that's watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix, or any of those sort of shows as well, or what happened with Cambridge Analytica, how they have the ability to be able to feed people a concept of reality based on perception through what they feed you in your data. And the interesting thing is that's why we created Messages from the Underground as well, Dave, is our private group, which has over 11,000 members, has been shadow banned, so people can't find it unless they're actually invited and given the link. So if anyone goes to messagesfromtheunderground.org, that'll take you to the page, and then you get to be able to join. But we've got over 11,000 people in our group, and the average exposure per post, we get over hundreds of posts every day from members. The average exposure for each post is around 50 or 60 people.
Wow. Get
to see each post. So that's how much they're being governed down with the algorithms and limiting exposure for our posts.
And this is the thing, like, we throw around the term algorithm and AI and deep learning and so on, but this shit is so sophisticated. If you put up a photo and it recognizes that content goes against the mainstream narrative, like, who's writing these algorithms? Who's doing the coding? Who the fuck are these people, Paul? Like, seriously, who are they? And who are these people that we never see in the background who are writing this code? Where are they getting their orders from? Who do they obey? Like we say, when you really break it down, somewhere there's someone who's doing the coding for Facebook or YouTube or Google or Twitter or whatever, that is creating these algorithms through these mega data centers that is designed to silence us and to squash our movement.
Yeah.
And I was putting up a photo of Lady Gaga with Hunter Biden. They were partying and looked like they were on the on drugs, right?
Yeah.
And I uploaded the photo onto Instagram, and I went to look at the post, and it had disappeared. I was like, what just happened then?
Yeah.
I thought, that must have been a glitch. I put it back on. 5 seconds later, it was deleted again.
Right.
Put it up again. I continually put it up. It would not, the algorithm continually directed it. No warning, no nothing. No, you violated our standards. No fact checkers, no nothing. Just kept deleting it. It was just like this. This is before the election, right? It was absolutely incredible. Then I actually screen recorded me uploading the photo and it being deleted in real time. And that got around the algo. I could upload that and you could actually see the post being deleted in real time off my Instagram. I was like, are you kidding me? It's just it's mind blowing what we're up against. And I saw another video come out today. I don't know if you've seen it. It's going viral fast. But this woman, she has pulled apart one of the Q-tips that they use for the nasal swab test. Right? Did you see that?
Yeah, I've seen it. The two different. So she pulls apart a standard cotton tip, and then she pulls apart a swab for
COVID. COVID swab
/ DNA sampling.
Yeah, man, and that, we've all been speculating that the test was, nanotech and DNA collection, and to see that nanotech, because the Morgellons are alive, right?
Yeah.
And to see that.
Can you just create what Morgellons is for people that don't know, Dave? Because you've got a bit of experience and background with research with geoengineering.
Yeah, look, to be honest with you, Paul, I don't know a lot about Morgellons other than it's kind of like a silicon. I think it's a silicon-based kind of nanotechnology. It's kind of like almost like a sentient kind of little technology that's like alive, and it squiggles around. It's able to replicate inside the body. I believe it's able to relay biodata as well back to the cloud, right? But it looks like it's conscious and aware and reactive to its surroundings. Yeah. And so people who have inhaled this stuff have had it coming out of their skin as the silicon replicates inside them. It's like the stuff of sci-fi nightmares.
Yeah.
But this was particularly disturbing, Paul, not just because of the content, but because of how many people we know have been tested.
Yes.
And this is particularly sinister. Like when you start to see the different premiers and politicians, not just in Australia, but all around the world, please get tested. Please get tested. Even if you don't have any symptoms, please get tested. Just go to your nearest testing center. And I know a lot of people who have had this thing inserted into their brain. Now, they've told us openly that the dreaded Rona has been showing up in the sewers. You've got to cover your mouth because you're going to breathe it into the air. You've got to keep your distance. It's so highly contagious. You should be able to spit into a cup or give a poo sample, give a fecal sample.
Yeah, which raises the question, if a DNA sample can be taken like normally from a mouth swab, which is like inside the gum, or spit, saliva, why are they shoving Q-tips up people's nostrils into the blood-brain barrier?
Mate, it is so frightening, Paul, and it takes a lot to rattle me. But I saw that video today, and initially the content of the video was a little bit unclear. But as she focused in close, you could see categorically that this stuff was alive and moving. And she pans over to the regular cotton bud, and it's obviously just dead, inanimate material.
Yeah.
Right? Staggering, mate. Staggering to think that. Like, I met a guy on the surf the other day. He just escaped from Melbourne. He'd come up here. They forced him to do a test. And I'm like,
it sounds like a movie, Escape from Melbourne.
And I met him out in the surf. We're getting a few waves together, having a chat. Lovely bloke. And I asked him, I said, what's the process like? He said, you know what? I had a few symptoms. They gave me both nostrils and deep down the back of the throat as well. He was like, mate, it was so uncomfortable, but it had to be done. And he wasn't really quite awake to the whole agenda. He said, look, I get it. If that's where they think the virus lives, I'll do my part. I tested negative. I'm like, mate, I didn't say much because what do you say? You've just been implanted. You've just been tagged and chipped.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's interesting, like the psychological manipulation, and there's people that want to do the right thing, Dave, and they want to be good people, and they don't want to feel as if there is some danger or threat, that they don't want to feel responsible for passing anything on to anyone, like the guilt and the concerns and the manipulation and that sort of thing. And I think that's the thing that I find most abhorrent about it. And I had a friend of ours communicate about the fact of visiting his elderly mother and her, him only being able to see her through a window and her being very emotional and not understanding of what's going on. And I think that's the thing for me from a form of activism. It's always trying to maintain the balance between my own health and well-being, but sometimes I just want to sort of get out and roar at the world, you know what I mean? But
there's no crueler form of tyranny than one that is dressed up under the guise of caring for you, whilst they're destroying you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whilst they're actually destroying you, but it's, you know, it's like someone comes into your house and steals your wallet, but you know, they're actually, then they turn around and help you look for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with something that's just so incomprehensibly evil. The fact that people are being duped into thinking that these authorities and powers and institutions and governments and companies actually are caring for them, while
Yeah.
they're actually luring them into this devastating trap. And seeing those Morgellons and that nanotech that has obviously been implanted into people, what the fuck's going to happen? Excuse my French,
Yeah.
but seriously, what's going to happen if this stuff is designed to interact with the new frequencies from the new technology? And
Yeah.
this stuff has been lodged into people's brains. And we've had the predictive programming, and you know, we talk tongue in cheek about the zombie apocalypse. But are we going to see hundreds of thousands of people severely brain affected by some sort of silicon replicating nanotechnology that's been lodged into the back of their brains? It is absolutely the stuff of nightmares, mate. It's terrifying. And I don't like to take the call down this track, but it's very concerning, mate. And I've got friends that I love who've done the test, and mate, it's full on.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that sort of bewilders me sometimes as well. Like I said, you know, I've got to sort of be responsible with my communication, my message as well. And there's a lot of people there, and they want to do the right thing. They want to be good people. They want to be responsible, etc. But you know, it just defies logic. I think that's the thing, is how sophisticated the manipulation and the propaganda is. If they want to take a DNA test, just spit in a jar, for God's sake. Like, why have, you know, nasal rods rammed up your nose? You know what I mean? So, but
you know, Paul, I don't know if you're familiar. I watched a video. I'll have to share it with you when it comes back to me. But there was a woman who was talking about this several months ago, prior to COVID. She's talking about Morgellons and the replicating nanotech and so on. And she had an interview with a whistleblower who was talking about it. This is all prior to COVID. So yeah, it would have been over a year ago.
Yeah.
And anyway, he shared some information with her about a basic chemical compound. I think it's called boron. It was a boron or borax. Anyway, it apparently neutralizes this stuff and stops it in its tracks and its ability to replicate. So I'll go through my history, my YouTube history, if I can go that far back. It'll come to me, and maybe you can get it out there, because if anyone has had the test and they're panicking, they may have this stuff in them.
Yeah.
Apparently, this is one safe protocol you can do to neutralize it. I believe pharmaceutical bicarbonate of soda can be effective as well.
Yeah.
I think boron or borax, one of the two. I'll find out for you.
Okay. And this might sound a little bit confronting too, like with the conversation that we're having at the moment, or what you're speaking about, Dave, but just want to point out, and I've done it in some social media posts as well, and a lot of people not aware of the fact that the Queensland Premier, Anastasia Palaszczuk, her father is actually in charge of one of the largest DNA bank profiles. So if people want, his name's Frank Palaszczuk, if people want to check that out and do the research for themselves as well. And also the fact that a lot of people have already voluntarily submitted their data through companies like Ancestry.com. And Ancestry.com was bought last year by a company called Blackstone, which is a hedge fund, for $4.7 billion. So when people, a standard DNA test, if you have one done privately, that your genetic data is secure, will cost you around about $300. I've had one done privately that's secure. But so yeah, people sort of, they did a loss leader on it, and basically I think maybe sold the tests through Ancestry.com to trace your genealogy back for, I don't know, maybe $50 or $100. So they took a loss on it, but they had this gene pool of data that they collected from all these people. So one of the terms and conditions was that they get to basically get access to that data. But yeah, if you look, people do a search for that as well. So genetic data, your DNA is actually your ultimate sort of
fingerprint,
genetic imprint, exactly. And people can tell anything about you, but it's very interesting. So if people check it out, look at Blackstone purchase of Ancestry.com in last year, I'm pretty sure it was 2020 or 2019, for $4.7 billion. The question is, what's a hedge fund doing buying people's genetic data? So that will interface with the conversation that you were saying about what's happening with people's data that's getting harvested. Who's taking the data? What's the data for? Is it being profiled? Why is it being profiled? Who has that data? How secure is that data?
Right. And how's it going to tie into the, I guess, the COVID passport and the COVID ID, vaccination passports and so on? How are the two going to link and interface? Will you just show up somewhere and there'll be a DNA profile of you? Are they looking to look? There's a lot of doctors who have come out and already said that this new injection is not a vaccination, it's genetic engineering.
Yeah.
And they're just literally experimenting on humans. I don't even think they've got the technology right yet. I'm not sure. We know there's obviously the depopulation agenda and so on, but there's also the transhumanism agenda. Yeah. And it looks like they're getting it wrong because people are already dropping like flies. We had the 29 people already, that we've heard in the mainstream media who died in Norway.
From Pfizer. I heard it was 23. Maybe it's gone to 29 now.
I saw one article said 29, one said 23. So there's maybe it's already going up.
Yeah.
But these are the ones that we're hearing about, and these are in the short term. But we're also seeing the Bell's palsy and the constant the seizures, the people who are like, having these constant seizures, the tongue spasms and so on. The half the face collapses. Mate, this is it's just an abomination, Paul.
Yeah.
It's just a freaking abomination, and I see people out there say, oh, you know what, these dummies, these brainwashed sheep, if they haven't woken up yet, they deserve what they get. That's absolute bullshit. There's people who are trusting and there's people who are naive, and the role of leaders is to make decisions and implementations that are in the interests of people.
Yeah.
But we are seeing something that is completely barbaric and evil. It's just evil beyond words. It's staggering to see what people are willing to do to other humans, and it's very unsettling. And the only thing that's going to potentially come out of this is when there is the mass casualty event and people are going to start waking up, because humanity has to come together and push back.
Well, even if it's a slow burn as well, I think that's the concern. And we are going to finish on a good note tonight. So if you're listening and just stay with us, we're going to finish on a good note. But also some people that I'm friends with a lot of doctors and that sort of thing as well, Dave, and they're saying that the indicated from the technology is that the mRNA as you said, the mRNA vaccine has the ability. It's not just a vaccine; it's a treatment. It's actually an interface.
Correct.
With the tech, and the fact is that it has the ability to interrupt the women's ability to be able to form a placenta.
Correct.
Yeah.
Same with male, the male sterilization process and so on as well. It's just dark. There's darkness all around us, but like you said, Paul, the darkness is the greatest just before the dawn. And there's something so magical and beautiful about human beings as well. And all I can hope and pray, and I guess expect, is that spirit can't ever really be defeated. We might take a few whacks here and there, but ultimately the human spirit will prevail, and I do believe that.
Absolutely.
We're seeing the awakening get traction. We're seeing the desperation of the powers that be to try and somehow hold this narrative together. And the harder they try, the more ludicrous they sound. But as well, I can see how we've all been forced to live in the moment and live by the day and appreciate our lives more and more, and come together. Like, people like yourself who've come into my life, Paul, who are just, you're a beautiful person, Paul. You're a good man. Your intentions are pure. You've got a great heart. You're a servant of humanity. And there's lots of people out you like there who are, being drawn to our lives, and who certainly give me hope to continue, and that we will prevail in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the acknowledgement, Dave. And the thing is as well, for me, it's heartbreaking for me at times. And the thing is, for me, I've said previously that I don't really want followers. I want to inspire as many leaders as possible. You know, leaders in their family, leaders in their community, leaders in their states, leaders in their countries, etc., to lead forth to create the new humanity. And
that's
we,
it.
yeah. And I was just going to say, we did. I know you've got some things you've got to do tonight as well, so we are going to leave it on a good note. And for the people that have missed the conversation previously in part 1, before we got disconnected, just about remedy for people to be able to deal with their circumstances powerfully, about what they're doing with their mental health, their physical health, their well-being, etc. If we can just do a recap on that before we close out.
Look, like I was saying earlier, you got to take critical care of your mental and physical health. And I was saying, I'll just wrap it up briefly, Paul. But for me, I listen to positive audio. It gets me out of my head. My head will go cuckoo. If I listen to my own wheels, I'm going to go crazy.
Yeah, I loop otherwise. Yeah.
I just find positive messages that resonate with me. Lately, I've been into Joseph Murphy and Eckhart Tolle, and that just helps me, you know, tune back in and settle back down and bring me back into the moment. I get in the ocean daily. I train hard daily as well. And I critically avoid information overload, because there's too much to take in.
Yeah.
And I make sure, you know what I do a lot as well, Paul, is I pick up the phone. You know, you can often find yourself lost in texting conversations.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone, connect with good people, keep the good people in your life close.
Yeah.
And anything that's draining your energy, whether it be people, places, or things, could be certain things in your life that you've got to distance yourself from, certain people, certain relationships or scenarios. You've got to make those tough calls at the moment, because everyone is revealing, I guess, their true colors at the moment. That's the nature of what's going on.
Yeah.
And find the people who you resonate with and keep them close and take really good care of yourself. Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dave, on that note. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for everyone that have watched and tuned in for this presentation. We've got a very interesting week in front of us. Dave Oneegs, I know you're on a Facebook ban. Thanks for joining us. There's always, where there's a will, there's a way. So you're on Facebook tonight anyway. So much love.
Two more weeks and I'll be back. I was starting to do a daily show on Facebook, Paul, called "Welcome to the Zombie Apocalypse," and I was having a bit of fun. I was just doing a bit of a news recap and just taking the Mickey out of the whole thing. And I did one little story. I had my goggles on and my face mask to protect me from the Rona, and it was just fun. And I look forward to coming back and doing a bit more of that. That'll be 2 weeks. My Instagram's still up, heavily shadow banned, and I've got a new Telegram chat starting. But take care of yourself, guys, and thank you, Paul. Always a pleasure to connect with you, my friend. Love your work.
Absolutely. Good on you, Dave. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Much love.
Thanks for having me. Much love, mate. Bye for now.